The Radical Roots
Hold on,
podcast.
actually, hold on one
No,
second.
wait a second. We are not
We
ready
might
to
be. I think
do.
we are. I think we are live. So we're
Oh,
we're trying this new technology tonight,
oh, man,
and we are
we're the titans of industry around here.
through the graciousness of our viewers and fans.
Thanks to the
Uh,
fans.
we're doing tonight's live stream on a tool called Restream, and it looks pretty cool. So let's
Here we
see
go.
here.
Oh yeah, I like this. I like the Chiron at the bottom.
Yep. We are
Doing it.
live. We
Hey,
are
welcome to
indeed
the
live.
Radical Roots podcast. Can I say it now? Are we good? Are we good? Are we not good? What's going
Yeah,
on?
we're good. We're
All
live.
right. Welcome to the Radical Roots podcast, where we dig deep to reach high and, of course, always progress through action. I am your co-host, Payron Baxter.
And I'm your co-host Ram Sandoval. How y'all doing tonight? Again, trying out some new software, see how things work, see if things look better, sound better. So your
I
feedback's
think it looks good.
appreciated.
I think I'm feeling this. This is real sexy like. This is real polyester draws, if you get what I'm saying. This is nice. I like this. I like this. Um well, I know you're still setting some stuff up. Do you need a couple more minutes, or are you ready to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, you go ahead and start us
Okay.
off while I'm
All right. Well,
testing things
I
out.
mean, so we got new technology, we got new
Yep.
things, new setups, and I pitched around before we got started. I want to kind of do a different setup of an episode, really just more a topic based rather than the current events as we always go through. Now, the current events will still trickle into this, but moreover, a larger conversation with the march. Well, I mean, we are in fascism. We're not marching towards fascism, but as we're settled comfortably with inside of fascism, what does patriotism look like in a fascist nation? And the kind of intricacies and uniqueness and amorphous shape of it, how it's always been historically, what it means to us now, and what does it mean for us moving forward. So kicking it off, in this moment where, I think growing up for me as a kid, there's always like flags and the Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem and all these kind of symbols of patriotism. If I'm being totally honest, and I'm not speaking for Ram, I'm speaking for myself, I've always felt that it was never really for me. I always felt that it was being forced upon me. Now, does that mean like, I wasn't, before, when I was more indoctrinated, proud to be an American per se? Sure, I was. But also, like, some of the symbols, it didn't feel like they were talking to me, right? Like walking into an Old Navy with those flag shirts and stuff that people wear for the 4th of July. I never thought that was for me exactly. But I do, I have very pleasant memories of like the 4th of July and going to barbecues and parades and things of that nature, right? But as we're now in a point where it's like the patriotism a certain way must be forced upon you, what does that mean? And but yeah, so I guess for me, just as we kick off this conversation, I just want us to, as Americans in this moment who are of conscience and who want change and to actively pull this settler colonial project into a place where everybody can be accepted, seen, and heard. What does patriotism look like? So I guess the shape that it used to take for me was, again, flags, baseball, Eagles, 4th of July. Um, but with that, some of the totems of the empire, I've always felt that were a bit kind of tacky. Like, again, for example, for me, always thought the flag looked tacky. I always thought the colors were tacky. But I also had a deep resonance with that with me as a young person. But my definition, as we get going here, my definition of a patriot is someone that looks out for his fellow man within his country, his borders, right? No matter what they look like, no matter what they sound like, no matter what language they speak, no matter what religion they pray to, no matter who they love, that you look out for that person, right? As a lot of us have heard the Ezra Klein, Ta-Nehisi Coates conversation, where he said that I do want to win, but not at the expense of my neighbor. And it's like, I do believe that we're patriots, and we do so for our neighbor, right? To use that same sort of a framing. But in this moment where folks are really wrapping themselves around the flag, when I say folks, we mean the white Christian nationalists. The Pete Hexes who always have the American flag pocket square or the lining of his suit blazers to be the American flag, and he has the "We the People" tattoo, or the people that have the "We the People" tattoos. It's always been used against Democrats. It's always been used against the left. It's always been used against Black people, that we aren't patriotic enough, that we aren't grateful enough. And I'm sick of that narrative. I think the most patriotic people have always been Black people. As Gil Scott Heron said, we carried the Bible, we carried the flag, we marched in the war, we did all of that, and we still weren't considered a citizen. We still weren't considered equal. We still weren't considered worthy to have our tax dollars to be redirected back to us. But yeah, this kind of jingoistic version of patriotism has always been this kind of wallpaper on the walls of a rotting house, where it's like, just say the pledge, just say the pledge. Well, get up and say the pledge in the morning. Say the pledge. And it's like, okay, but like as a 9-year-old, I didn't know what like indivisible meant. I didn't know what justice for all meant. I didn't know what half these things that I was forced
that's true.
to say meant. But just kicking off, what's your shape and form of patriotism as you were growing up?
Yeah, very similar. I remember saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I remember, I feel like when I was living in California, somewhere around like preschool, kindergarten, and like it was like, I feel like it was outdoor school, and like I remember them like actually like hanging the flag every day, and then bringing it down and folding it. That whole and I just did it because like that was just what you were supposed to do.
Right.
And again, also kind of echo what you said in terms of like, indivisible. Like I didn't know what that meant. I mean, liberty and justice for all, at some point I knew. I don't remember if we were what age, the pledge, stopped saying the pledge, if ever, throughout like I don't even remember in high school for sure.
Yeah.
But I think even when I was in like elementary school, white schools, black school, I feel like we did it. But I remember singing Star Spangled Banner, but I remember in when I was in Chicago, we would also sing the Black National Anthem, or you would lift every voice and sing, and getting a mixture of both. But in terms of like patriotism, man, again, baseball, the flag, the 4th of July. And again, I also don't know when my views kind of changed or matured on that. I think at some point in the last, I don't know, 18 years, let's say, patriotism means something different to me. I do feel like, people who are searching for a better way of life, a better country here, are the most patriotic of people. I just don't know if I would go out and say like, I'm a patriot. I think of like Mel Gibson and the Patriot, like these guys like fucking like this bravado of like, we're gonna put flags on a truck and you're gonna rah, like
Right.
like
it's a very aggressive patriotism.
Yeah, like just like yeah, just like this meaningless brute force of you're a patriot, right? And it doesn't really mean anything. And it's like, these people who call themselves patriots today are more intent on tearing things down. They stormed. These are the people that stormed the Capitol with flags and beat the police officers over the head with flags and tried to stab them with flag poles and all kinds of crazy shit. And they would swear to you that that's the most patriotic thing ever. These patriots would swear to you that black and brown and any non-white person doesn't belong in this country. They're less than. So yeah, I can't identify with that the same way as like the flag. I again struggle with the flag. I feel like my ancestors built this country. That flag should be it should be just as much ours, if not more. And going to the point of where who did you say said the black people are the most patriotic people? Who did you say said that?
I said what now?
A quote you said: "The most patriotic are black people in America."
I don't know
Whose quote? You said,
look,
I
I
don't
got
know. I just make up some quote. He just
they're
makes
always
up quotes.
they're always floating up there. But to that point, and I think you made a good point about, like, my people built this country. I think that's the one thing that we as black people lean on a lot when we talk about our history within this nation. But I was listening to Dr. Carr, who's a law professor out of Howard University, and he was talking about that phrase that we use so frequently. And he says we kind of throw that back in the face of these racist white people or people who may not know history. He says, but when we do say my country, excuse me, my people built this country, yes, but under duress. Yes, but at the end of a whip. Yes, at the end of a bullet or at the tip of a knife. So when we really pull that sentence apart, when we're saying that, what do we mean when we say that? What do you think when we say, like, because that really reshaped the way I even say that. And I heard him say this a couple weeks ago. But when we do say this idea of, like, my people built this country, what are we trying to prove and who are we trying to prove it to, do you think?
Right. I don't know. I don't know who. I feel like that's a good question. I do feel like it's very similar to the hijacking of the word woke, right? In the sense of, like, it's kind of the reverse, right? So, like, as you said, woke has been around for as long as we've been alive. However, it's been, hijacked and just taken to mean something completely different, right? I think I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent, but social media exposed that word to the world, as has a lot of things that grew and were kind of like just stayed within black circles, black cultural circles. In the case of patriotism and the flag, I feel like,
or like we built this country.
Yeah, I feel like it's right. Like, I feel like it's not something we're hijacking. It's something that's, like, it's existed. Like, when you think of America, when I think of the greatest people in America, the people who changed America, like, for example, MLK. We talk about his speech on the Washington Monument. Like, that's one of the most American things that you can think of. I mean, it was in all our textbooks, and the greatest people in history, Harriet Tubman's and the Frederick Douglass, and the people that we see in our textbooks who changed the trajectory of this country. And it just, to me, doesn't seem fair or right for just to say, like, oh, well, the flag, that belongs to white Americans. Patriotism belongs to white Americans.
But do we want it? Is the question. Because I think, as I'm even hearing you answer, I'm thinking about the answer myself, because I just we kind of, just for folks listening, we kind of just framed this conversation. We didn't really go through notes or anything, so I'm working through it real time with Rom. But, like, as you say that, like, this is no disrespect to myself. Again, this is me processing it right now. But, like, yeah, I think we're trying to stake ownership in something that's already stolen, and we're trying to purport our humanity, right, our citizenship, which has always been under contestation since 1865. So it's kind of a layered thing, right? You got people who are on stolen land. That's everybody here. Then on top of that, you have people who on that stolen land are not deemed fully people, who are trying to say we are people and we have rights to this stolen land. So when we look at the kind of trickle down of that, of, like, what does it mean to be someone who professes the ideals and the virtues given to us by the fleeing felons, or as some would call the founding fathers? Are we actively being as patriotic as we can? But then you gave some great names. You said Martin Luther King, that pulled Harriet Tubman, that pulled this country to be, to uphold its values and to be patriotic. So if they're the most patriotic, the James Baldwins, the Malcolm X's, the Marcus Garveys, the folks that were trying to have change the social political dynamics of this country to be more egalitarian towards everyone. But then what does that mean for those who are in power from the beginning? Does that mean that they're inherently anti-American? Because I'm going back, and I guess the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because I was just thinking about what happened the past month, right, with the Charlie Kirks and the folks being on blacklists and getting fired and the death threats and Robert Burns of it all. And they had the Klan rally in Monroe, and we're the Patriots, and they're all wicked demons, Satanists, pedophiles. They would consider themselves the Patriots. They look up to the Ronald Reagans. They look up to the, Lee Atwaters. They look up to the Woodrow Wilsons. They look up to the Andrew Jacksons. They look up to the George Washingtons. But those are all people that actively endeavored and tried to reinforce a project that would steal from people their voices. They would steal from people their autonomy. They would steal from people their ability to activate within inside of this political system in the democracy. So should we really be saying that people like George Washington aren't patriotic, and the people that were patriotic were the people that were actively fighting against what he stood for at the time? It should be the Sherlyn Eiffel was doing the beginning stage interview for Howard Law, and she was saying that she believes that the founding fathers of this country should be like Thaddeus Stevens, the people that helped shape and form the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments that really kicks off this multicultural, pluralistic democracy where we can even get to the 1965 Civil Rights Act and then get the Immigration Act of 1965 that allows in people from non-white countries like in India and Pakistan and China and other, in South American countries. This is what we must battle with, right? This is what we must wrestle with, because if the patriots, if the real people who are that are trying to live up to the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are not George Washington, are not Abraham Lincoln, are not Ronald Reagan, but are Martin Luther King, I think that we should at least, if we're going to stay here, because some folks can't leave, we should at least say that the true patriots were those that were having this settler colonial project live up to those ideals. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm also processing it real time too, and I was kind of thinking about, and I was also kind of thinking about the flag that's the current iteration, which is from 1960, and I think about when I think of the 1960s, I think of the civil rights era, and I do think of that's the flag I know, right? And I don't know what this other shit is.
To be honest, I haven't seen any of these. I'm not the 1877.
I feel like it's skipped a few. I don't even. Let me pull up a different one because
no, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine.
But yeah. So again, I think that at this point, I think I just keep going back to your question of well, what are we holding on to, or what do we, do we really want to fight for this flag? And does the flag I'm well, does the flag even matter? And we went to an event with at my daughter's school, my wife and I, and it started off with the pledge, and my wife's like, "This is a little bit weird." Because it's weird when you go to these the council meetings and the county meetings, and as adults you send the pledge, and I think saying pledge to a country that's it's now
it's fascist.
And now it's literally an authoritarian country, and it's I think it's always been a violent country, right? It's always been a racist country, and so I don't know. At this point, kind of the way I feel is beyond the flag. It's it's going to burn down or crumble. I say that in some ways metaphorically, but I truly believe that this regime is going to crash the United States of America as we know it. And I think the question is, well, what comes after? If I would be very surprised if in 20 years we have the same flag. I'll be very surprised in 20 years we have the same constitution. So with that, like, I don't think that we're going to hold on to a flag. I think if we're going to rebuild something that reflects America in 2020, whatever, or 2030 or whatever it may be, I think it's going to look completely different. And then, I think flags and pageantry and all of those things, I think that it does have some importance in society. Like, that's why we do award shows. That's why people dress up. And, I think, when military has a show of force, or like what's it called? The haka, the over in Australia, or not Australia,
The indigenous people,
New Zealand.
yeah, the
Like,
indigenous people's chant. I don't think that's the
yes.
same thing as a nationalist flag, though.
No, it's the pageantry of it, right? Like the pageantry of like the tradition of like, of a culture, right? And a flag, maybe not, but like in terms of like,
but America's not a culture.
In America,
what's American
purports
culture?
to have a purports to have
Right,
a culture.
but
I'm just saying pageantry in general.
No, you're right, but like that's the difference between like the philosophical debate that you're trying to have right now in your brain versus your real life living as inside of your body as Ram and my body as Peyron, our material actual conditions and existence experiences, and those two things coming into conflict with one another. And you're trying to put the words behind it. But that's what we're all dealing with as Black people in this country in this moment, being told that the reason you can't have healthcare is because you're not a patriot, you're not patriotic enough. The reason that the police beat on you is because you're not, an upstanding American. The reason that you're in a cancer rally is because that you are undeserving, right? So these are the things that we have to like right size, and they may not go together, and that's also okay. And I think I'm trying to get. I guess I'm not. I don't really have an agenda to get anybody to be on this side or that side. I just want us to start thinking bigger and better, because you made a point earlier of like should we stand for this flag, or is that a part of patriotism? And I'm like, damn the flag, because human beings existed before this project existed, right? And human beings will exist after this project's existing is done existing, whatever the phrase is, right? So like I want us to start thinking more society like that. And in a good way that I like to ask people is that, like, if you could pick up right now and go to another planet that's inhabitable by human beings and start a new society, what would you bring from this current American governmental system? What would you bring? Like, okay, this worked there on Earth 1. We're on Earth 2. We're in Elon's colonized Mars with his, limp dick up there or some shit like that. Like, what systems will we bring? Because this, and I think the reason I want to talk about this today, because folks get so caught up in the milieu of the bullshit. They get caught up in the are the trans using bathrooms, or are the wokers wanting reparations, and are the Latinos and the wetbacks crawling over the lines, and are the Chinese eating cats, and all this, instead of understanding that this government, you deserve better from it, and this government is not providing for you. And this system, this constitution, which is really just a contract for a political investment for wealthy white men to not pay taxes. That's what the Constitution was. That's why there's 27 amendments. They had to change that bitch 27 times because the original joint was fucked up. It wasn't for everybody. So as we're sitting here trying to deconstruct.
Yeah, I think one of the things I was thinking about before this episode was, well, these patriots, what do they actually believe outside of like, humping a flag and, draped in flags and, Jesus's or America's Jesus's chosen country.
That's true. Jesus did say that.
So
he said, I'm going to America, baby.
They don't point to the they don't point to the Constitution right now, like, right? They don't,
or the Bible,
any of the amendments. They cherry pick the Bible to fit whatever as do I personally. I also don't think the Bible is the most like it was compiled by men, written in
Correct.
so
Some dead language.
but
Rom, let me ask you this real quick before you finish that sentence. What was my first, or my, excuse me, what was my third sentence I said today?
I don't know.
Okay, so how, I mean, as we say there, how can people say they overheard someone say something in a dead language, then translated it in a book, which was then retranslated, reprinted? But I mean,
yeah,
there's a certain
interpreted,
level,
reinterpreted,
right?
you
It's like,
know,
come on.
and it was, you know, there could have been other story,
Yes, there were stories put in, taken out.
yeah, and
There's
so
not even, there's not even a consensus on the
let's see what the same
on the 10 commandments. If you some people say there's 13, some people say there's 15, some people say there's 9. There's not even a consensus on 10 commandments.
Yeah, and it's even in the Bible. I mean, there's the stories like Mark, Matthew, Luke told differently, different perspectives. Like so. Anyways, my point is like they don't point to anything. They don't point to the Constitution. They're not saying like we got to fight for the Constitution, we got to fight for the amendments. No, they're saying we have to fight for the Second Amendment, but be damned with the First Amendment because, like, you know. And so even, you know, as
well, that's why I came second.
As anybody who's sane in this country, meaning, you know, left of insane. No one ever said like these people can't speak. They can speak their craziness or whatever. Yes, you should have accountability for the things that you say, but no one said that the government should come down and like not allow you to speak. But now here they are, like, you should not be allowed to speak. These people need to be, if they don't want to talk nicely about this country, then you need to get the fuck out.
You know, hear English at our football game.
And so here we are. English. Here we are, and people, you know, people like us who want to improve the conditions of all people,
right?
And if you don't like it, then fucking leave. What? If you didn't like living under Biden, who was such a horrible person, why didn't you fucking leave? Why don't you know? We didn't sit here and say, well, if you don't like it, leave, or hey, you know, we didn't say that. Like, granted, yeah, sure, I think it, but like for different reasons,
right?
So, what do they point to that's so patriotic? Because if it's not the Constitution, if it's not the amendment,
it's also never in the interest of their fellow man.
Yeah, and it's not in the rule of laws that exist today. And as we know, laws in this country have never been just. But even, you know, all of the norms of the 249 years of existence. I say that loosely, but this president does not give a shit about any of it. So I don't think, I think patriotism, to conclude, I think patriotism is dead, right? because it won't have the same meaning to anybody. You know, it's going to take, even if there was let's say there were, God heaven forbid, there's a 9/11 attack, which brought the country together in a lot of ways. You know, does it take something like that to happen to bring the country together? And even if it does, we're going to say we're patriots again? I don't think so. I think it's gone. I think that I don't think there's any going back.
Well,
I don't think there's any going back.
I think to your point about like the 9/11 of it all, and like, you know, we came together as a country, but then it really was a exercise in showing
we came together as bigots and terrorists. Like I was like, fuck yeah, like, I don't know, you know, kill somebody for what they did. Like, that's kind of how I was thinking. And I think it was a very toxic way of thinking.
I just think too that, like, you know, it really was an exercise in showing our lack of civic education, right? And our lack of U.S. history. And I'll always like to quote the Noam Chomsky quote where he says that, you know, Israel is the most propagandized and indoctrinated country in the world. Then he has a pregnant pause. And he says second to the United States of America. Because if we knew what we were doing around the world, a lot of stuff would come into color and into, you know, into acute picture. Realize like, oh, we do a lot of fucked up shit. There's a lot of reason people around the world despise the United States of America. You know, we are the big bully in the room. We are the policemen of the world. We are the one. And as Black people, we know what it's like to have a relationship with policemen, right? So I think when we look at like, well, this country hates us. And as Assata Shakur told us, who recently passed, who became an ancestor, only a fool allows someone else to tell them who their enemy is. Looking back at the old videos of Muhammad Ali, not willing to go to Vietnam, saying none of them people ever did anything to me. None of those people ever, strung me up from a trade. None of those other people ever stopped me from having access to clean water. None of the people over there ever had me not be able to vote. And that is the duality. Now, both me and you, we have the double V for democracy shirts. But again, just looking at like patriotism right now has been, I think used as a weapon, if anything.
Yeah. As you talk about it, and we had our textbooks, which I don't think
McGraw-Hill.
Look, I would love to
Huge
go back
MAGA.
and pick up a textbook that I had from, back then in 2002 and 2001, 2000, whatever. And I don't think that they were obviously told from a
imperialist.
Yeah, they were obviously told from a, pro-America, sugar-coated to a degree. I don't think they weren't calling slaves and voluntary servants or whatever they're calling them now in some of these textbooks. However, I still feel like and I didn't really learn a lot more until I got to college, until I had more taught to me. So I think, looking back, like it's probably the onus is on us to us as in our generation as Black and brown Americans to teach more to our kids at a younger age. And I was taught certain things. My mom taught me like a lot of things, but there was a lot of things that I feel like I didn't know, which I think are important context. And at no point did I ever, as I was learning these things, was thinking like, oh, like all of these white people, are out to get me, or every white person is racist. However, I did put things into perspective of being like, okay, wait, why do they hate us? Wait, why are they, attacking us? Why are they? And then it was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, because if you say, like in Israel's a good example in what they have done to Palestine, and say, well, these guys are terrorists because they, in this case, attacked us on October 7th. Well, it's kind of it's if it's truly a war, and it's been a war for decades, that's the means to how they can conduct a war. So you mean if they were geared up, suited up with armored tanks and military rifles, it makes it more or less acceptable? I don't think so. And I think even when we went and attacked Iraq and we went into Afghanistan, like, who gave us the authority to kill millions of people, right? In retaliation
And
for.
should we be proud of that? Should we be proud of that patriotic work?
Exactly. I don't think. And so again, I think at this point, like, fuck it. The flag.
I think it's important for us to have. I mean,
like, what are we fighting for? Like, to your point, like, and I get it now. Like, what, as we're talking through this, like, what are we truly fighting for?
Yeah, and I think that's the confusion of the folks in this moment right now who. And what really shocked, I didn't send this to you, but on one of the pages that we both are groups of, someone locally was like, "Oh, thank you for whoever donated the 100 American flags. We're gonna pass these out at No King's Day." And I meant to send it to you, but I'm just gonna talk about it here. Like, I wouldn't be caught dead waving an American flag. Like, you couldn't pay me to wave an American flag. Like, when I was the chair of the Democratic Party, I had a flag lapel pin, out of just sheer, routine. I did the Pledge of Allegiance before we began meetings, but also there was times where I just started the meeting because why am I pledging allegiance to, first of all, why should I pledge allegiance to a place that actively stalks, surveils, kills with impunity me and my people? Why should I pledge my allegiance to a place that keeps me poisoned? Why should I pledge allegiance to a place that doesn't want me to vote and be able to change the political system? Why should I pledge allegiance to a place that demonizes my ancestors that had more courage in their pinky toe than their best great man? Why should I pledge allegiance to a country or because America is not a country, it's a nation filled with little countries, right? That's what we truly are, right? These different groups and sub pockets. But why should we do that? And of course, as the chair of the Democratic Party, as anybody could probably understand, most people in those meetings were old white people who never ever questioned what they learned about this country. In fact, they love the flag. They love what it represents for them. But when I see the flag, and I think Roy Wood Jr. has the fantastic joke that sometimes when you see too many, how many American flags equals one Confederate flag, right? Like when you see just one too many American flags, you're like, okay, that equals a Confederate flag, right? Like, and that's just kind of like the relationship we have with this country. And then going back to, as I touched on earlier, about the Ezra Klein, Ta-Nehisi Coates conversation, I think is really emblematic of the patriotic conversations that we're trying to have right now between me and you, but then also as a country right now, right? Where Ezra Klein was really talking about like how can we win, right? Through the social construct of this governmental system. And Ta-Nehisi Coates is like, I am the descendant of people that toiled every single day and never saw the fruits of their labor for freedom for their people, right? People who were enslaved, that worked against slaves. Frederick Douglass, I mean, he was around at the end of slavery, but he was born a slave, right? He was born enslaved. He was born a captive. A country that still has legalized captivity of people. That we become the number one jailer and enslaver of anyone on the planet. Still, 4% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's imprisoned people.
Yeah.
Why should we pledge allegiance to that?
Yeah, I think the facade and is up. The jig is up.
The jig is up.
The
It's getting jiggy
the
with it.
curtains, thanks to Trump, that's maybe probably will end up being one of the potential good outcomes, depending on which fork of the road we end up on. But why are we trying to hold on to, for example, when Ezra Klein, as he was talking, it was like, but we have to win. And it's like, but we have to win. But when, what are we holding on to?
Right.
While the right, everyone's moving right further to the right. They keep wanting to chase the middle, run after the middle as it keeps moving to the right to appease to what? Like, what are we like? Why should we care just because? And this is what I brought up a couple weeks ago about the two-party system. Like, what do we do with that two-party system? So I'll be damned at this point. If I'm not going to give in to. I'm not going to sacrifice my morals anymore and say like look the other way, because you think about Kamala Harris, if she was running on the same platform that she ran last year today and was not speaking out against the genocide forcefully in Palestine, I don't know if I could look the other way again, because I don't know if it's worth it.
Right. What is it?
Because when you look, because now that's been greenlit. And that's been greenlit everywhere. So if you're not free everywhere, we're not free, right?
That's what our ancestors.
So then we look into we looked at Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think it was what's that clown's name that's on CNN?
Scott
Jennings.
Mr. Incredulous Face. He's always
he's repeating the line that they use in Gaza.
Gaza.
He said to
human shield.
Human shield. Oh, well, do you think it's okay to have kids to live around?
Correct. And this is the problem with
Trende Awa. And it's like, well, what? So because they live close, you're now saying that they could be ripped out of their homes, they could be zip tied, taken outside half naked.
But this is the problem.
That's okay because and people have always been in proximity of illicit criminals. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that they should be, but I'm just saying that there's a white child in a house right now full of white criminals,
militiamen and drug dealers.
Yeah, so it's not like, and so and there's hardened criminals. So these hardened criminal Trende Agua, like that's just, and so here you have Scott Jennings now on CNN saying these things. The next thing you know, they're going to be like, well, they're human shields, right? They're moving into. So if you're not calling out these people and snitching on these people, then you might die, and that's what's coming. I truly believe that.
Yeah, no, you nailed it, and I think only thing I would add is that we've said, as someone who went to countless rallies during the Biden administration and been the protests since Trump, and we haven't stopped activating, because I think when people realize what imperialism truly is, it is the overexpansion of the nation state. And honestly, when you look at a place like Israel as an extension of America, I do forget the name of the author, but he has a book called, the Palestine Laboratory. That's what it is. It's they try out these weapons, they try out these techniques, and then you have places like Gili, which is the Georgia Israeli law enforcement exchange program, where they train police officers to have tactics which they are tried and true on West Bank Palestinians or Israeli proper Arabs, as they call them. They don't call them Palestinians, they live in Israel. And how they beaten, subdued, and killed them, or the AI product like the Lavender Project or their Daddy's Home AI. All this stuff was siphoned through Palantir. And we were warning about this. I remember warning about this back in November of 2023 when I was the chair, and it was really difficult because all people wanted to know about was like, we can't let Trump win. And I'm like, we will let Trump win if we do not have a principled stance. And a lot of people don't have a politics that's rooted in anything, right? Like what does your politic look like? What is your politic rooted in? And I think using the Ezra Ta-Nehisi Coates conversation as a microcosm for what we're doing locally, statewide, and nationally is that most people who consider themselves liberals and all these progressive Democrats who are white or who have more of a privileged lifestyle, they don't have a politic rooted in anything. Yeah. Like if you have a politic rooted in the equal treatment of all people, an end to cruel militarism and police, you could be getting so many things, but they're not. They just, and the things, these people, they want to maintain the status quo too, because they're already at the top of the crop. So they're saying, I just don't want that rocked. And I don't want the aesthetic of someone like a Donald Trump to really expose. This is what so many Black women, Black men, Latino people, immigrants, Asian people have warned us about for centuries. And it's easier to be like, no, it's Trump. It's just Trump. It's like, no, that's your daddy. That's your uncle. That's your cousin. That's your neighbor. That's your boss. That's your friend. That's your son. And you need to have those harder conversations.
Yeah, and I think on Sunday we'll dive, I want to dive deep into that. But I think they want these people, these centrists. They want people like us to sacrifice our morals to say like, well, it's not a genocide, or well, they kidnapped and killed people on October 7th, and so it's okay to kill how many people? What is it? Do you know what the death toll is at?
For what now?
For in Gaza, the death toll.
I mean, according to the Lancet, it's around 600,000, but the official numbers are 60,000. But people have a name to them.
So you want us to give up our morals? Where no, like let's stand on our business, and you give up whatever perceived bullshit about like you have to actually give up your ass kissing of Israel. Like that's or you choose Trump. Like if that's
but okay, what is the topic of this conversation? Patriotism. So can you be a patriot and first of all say I care more about Israel? Secondly, can you be a patriot and also say you're willing to throw certain people of your own nation state under the bus just to win the next, just to control the reins of a political project? Because I think we're seeing now is the veneer has fallen, the veil has fallen, that the idea that like, oh, if you win an election, you then have power. It's like, I think we're all fighting over this. I think I said this to you in the text message, like we're fighting over like a toy steering wheel. Like, oh, I'm driving now. It's like, I'm driving. It's like, none of us are driving. None of us are driving.
But here's the thing. Like Americans, and I voted for Kamala Harris.
Same.
I said, I told myself, and whether or not I feel like now that she's come out with her book tour, like I feel like I was probably just telling myself a lie at this point, which was that yes, she was handcuffed. She kind of alluded to that by Biden, but she also kind of didn't really change her stance at all and say like, I should have called it a genocide. I should have said something more forcefully. I think that so here's my point. Like we did it, and this is where it got us, right? It didn't get us anywhere. So I don't think I can do that again. I don't think there's any point in doing that again. And if the Democrats never win again, I don't know if 2026 is even going to be an election, but if they never win again, then like, I don't know. That's just how I feel now. Maybe when things get closer, I feel like, and also like I don't know what people are who's gonna be running and what people are gonna say, but
I really don't
it's
care.
all hypotheticals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all this.
exactly.
Well, who's gonna win?
It's
Honestly, like
I don't think it's.
all these fuckers are full of shit. So I
I
don't
think
really
it'll
care.
collapse. I think the country will collapse before the 2026, or be some kind of crazy facade of an election. So I don't really put a lot of stock into, oh well, Newsom's going to run, or JB Pritzker's going to run, or AOC's going to run. Like, I don't know if it matters.
Because the question has to always go back to, what do you demand? What do you want from the government? And most people, and when we're seeing all this, like JB Pritzker, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, insert whoever, you're your modern neoliberal, corporate Democrat. What they're saying is like, I just want someone that I can feel okay with, right? I don't want any radical change to this system. Again, radical meaning getting to the roots of something, being able to look at it from the foundation up, look warts and all. And that's one thing. And there's something called the standpoint perspective theory, where basically the folks who are more marginalized see reality more clearly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Black women, Black trans women will see the reality of what this country is more than you or I, right? Black women will see this country for what it is and the power structure more than a white woman will, or a disabled queer, someone who's from an immigrant. They're going to see what the machinations of this country is more than most people. So like, when we're talking about what it means to be a patriot, I think it's important for us to be able to really grapple with what that means and why we want to be it, right? Because now the right is using it as this cudgel, because they have a politic of violence. They have a politic of exclusion, right? Their idea of patriotism is an exclusive endeavor where everyone is not in there, right? And we saw this by the recent killing of Charlie Kirk, of how they reacted, right? Someone who fomented violence and fomented racism, fomented sexism and homophobia and transphobia, he gets WWE explosions coming out of the ground for his fucking funeral. And folks, if I die, please don't have me go out like that. I don't want to have no WWE. Like, I want to, and here comes Ram Sandoval. It's like, I don't want that shit. I just he was all right, dude. He stood for some good shit. But these are all people that are if you look at that crowd at the Charlie Kirk funeral thing, these were all hollow people who have been sold a lie. They've been sold some shit that they want to hold on to, but it does not reflect anything good with inside themselves. As Toni Morrison said, if you take your race away, what do you got? If you take your nationality away, what do you got? Are you any good? Are you kind? Are you uplifting people? But this is why they need things like Christianity. This is why they need things like their nationalism. This is why they need white Christian nationalism. All those things give them meaning, false meaning, but it gives them some sense of, you are with the power and you are not with the powerless, even though they are powerless too, because they're also being taken advantage of by the 1% who's allowing their material conditions to deteriorate at an expeditious rate, as our friend Cliff Harris would say, TIP.
Yeah. Well, this administration, this regime has knocked the country off its axis. And, I think there's nothing to hold on to. So,
Right.
at this point, all of this, like, normalcy and keeping everyone, contained or whatever, and, business as usual, like, I think that's gone.
And I think
It
that was a
was a
problem.
slippery slope.
That was a problem with Kamala Harris in 2024. Where folks were in the streets, from 2020 and on. It set a moment where folks like, this shit got to change. This social contract, which was an episode before we talked about the disillusionment of the social contract. People, they want a new one. They want to fuck the Constitution ain't working for everybody. Burn that bitch. These people who are, I'm a staunch constitutionalist. The Supreme Court is originalist. Those were a bunch of land owning wealthy white men. I don't want to be dictated by a bunch of old racist ghosts.
Yeah, but the country had the opportunity to vote for the more of the same, right? And like they didn't. So like that was it's the country made its choice. Like so here we are. So if people want to keep voting for the downfall of themselves.
Well, I guess in the back end of my point I was going to make was that, and on top of that, Kamala wasn't offering change. She was offering, we heard Waj Ali say this, that like, folks are yearning for reformation, and she was offering restoration. I'm going to restore this. But okay, you're restoring something that wasn't working for us to begin with. This is why Trump could come in and say the system's broken, which is true. Remember, a demagogue can absolutely identify what your problem is. And once they say it out loud, like you're getting screwed over by your job, you can't afford medical bills, and they're all like, yeah. But then the demagogue pivots and then blames the immigrant, they blame the trans, they blame the thug, they blame the XYZ. So with her saying, I want to restore, and we'll get back to, it does not convince a lot of people that she was serious in creating the change that was so necessary for us to get over the hump of fascism. But when you open the door for it and you start to repeat them, and then going back to the Ta-Nehisi Coates Ezra Klein conversation, where he was like, we need to run pro-life Democrats, and then Ta-Nehisi immediately flipped it back to him like, but how does that square with these red states that also have amendments for abortion? Right, those win handily. They didn't vote for Kamala Harris, but they voted for their bodily autonomy. And this is the real condition people are actually yearning for. And the Democrats always create a vacuum by not filling that up with information or a positive platform that is affirmative and life affirming for people.
Yeah. So good discussion for sure.
So what do we do? Do we want to be patriots? Like, let's end on a. What do we do with this? Are we like, what's happening here? In your opinion,
it's out of so. I think Sunday will be a good episode because, we're leading up into. We're coming up onto October 18th. This huge No Kings protest, right?
Right. What does this mean? Are those patriots?
And I think it's important to. I think what needs to be figured out is like, well, what comes of that? Because is it just another parade? What are those demands? Right?
It can't just be I don't want Trump. It can't be that.
It can't just like a no king. Like okay, like
right. What?
So, I feel like there's 9 days for people to figure out like how to make the most of it.
Where's the bouncy house?
I think the country's currently shut down right now. The government's shut down.
The government's shut down.
I think the
Epstein-Thousand.
Somebody, yes. Look, people are getting call me Trump's
Letitia
own
James,
Trump's own FBI, director. He's taking him to court for bullshit,
as one does.
As Letitia James, also you got this amateur prosecutor who can't even get their own Eastern District of prosecutors, because even the ones that may even be Republican and maybe even be for Trump won't even smear their own career for him because they got some sense. Like,
it undermines why they went to school. What their career is. It's like if I'm saying, well, whatever this guy says, even as a Republican, I'm like, okay, well, how can anybody ever hire me?
You got Trump judges in Oregon saying like this is fucking crazy. Basically, like this is a Trump appointed judge telling you, like, hey, this is actually pretty scary. This is a warning. And then all of a sudden, that's a liberal, activist judge, according to Stephen Miller. So look, I think all of this. I think they're going to fall on they're going to fall on themselves, and we're going to have to rebuild this country. So I think that what instead of like spending time, fighting for this flag and fighting for the Constitution and these amendments, I think that people build. I think that
the right or the left isn't fighting for the amendments and the flag. People are fighting for their way of life.
People the only, but yeah, you can only point right to your point, yes, but what I'm saying is like the only way that this country remains the same is if you go back to the Constitution, if you go back to the amendments. To your point, everyone's going to be fighting for their way of life, right? And so in order to fight for our way of life in the way that we or people think that it should be run, that means that people have to start rebuilding these systems and I think that that's in the form of quote unquote a shadow government. But if you start thinking about governance and partnerships within communities, within local municipalities, within states, right? So like, what that sounds like is basically a cold civil war, right? Because you have how else do you, if you're coordinating, and granted I'm not sure how that turns out either, but if you're coordinating with other states and you
But who's
start
doing the
doing
coordination?
commerce,
We as the people, are we coordinating with Illinois?
that's
Like,
that's what people have to start figuring out right
what
now.
I'm saying is that like it's a lot of like grandiose ideas versus like
specifics,
or versus like some of the more granular things that we could be doing to start to live that life, start to imagine greater. Because if we're still thinking of these arbitrary lines on a geographic location that we like to call borders, and of like we're still playing the game they want us to play. Like even the concept of a civil war, like a civil war helps the 1%, right? If we're talking civil war and we're not talking revolution scares the 1% because the revolution changes the rules. A civil war just says, okay, yeah, these dumbasses, they're just going to fight each other, and we still get to, yes, it might be a little bit, rough, might be a little bit violent, but I'm going to be okay because money still means something, and I have the majority of it. If we start talking revolution, not in any of this kind of abstract revolutionary way, I'm saying like revolution as in this system is over, not broken, all this system's broken, fuck all that. The system is over. We are imagining a better system. And I'm going to start with myself saying, in my neighborhood, I'm going to do the XYZ or blah, blah, blah. We can start imagining that shit right now. And that's what I think. And so to your point about the No King's Day, we went out there at the first one, like, what do y'all demand? And people didn't really have demands. And this is why a lot of them were older white people, that they didn't really have to demand anything from the government because this country was shaped and carved in their image on the backs of Black people and through the blood of indigenous people. So they didn't really have to demand anything. So right now they're finding out what it's like to be a nigga, of the shit we've been saying for 400 years of like, oh, you thought because you was a straight white woman you're gonna be good. No, now they're gonna say you're Antifa. Antifa is gonna be your new nigga. Antifa equals nigga for you. We can teach you how to survive that, but you have to unlearn some shit. You have to not center yourself and center people that look like you and listen to people who I said earlier on the standpoint perspective, that are more on the margins, who can see this for what it is. And that's my biggest fear.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's what these are like, I think when you reach out to me like saying, hey, I kind of want to talk about this more broader topic. I've been thinking about, okay, well, what's, like what's season 2 of the Radical Roots look like? You know what I'm saying? Like, we can talk about, what's happening in the news and stuff, but it all ends in the same.
Yeah,
it's all going to end badly. Like, it's not like we're not going to like have an episode and we're going to stop this train. It's like, well, how do we start to shift into like, that community building, or how do we shift into like this strategy? Because I'm a strategist by nature. And so keep doing the same thing over and over again, and not just saying like our podcast, but just in general, right? Because like you can see where this is going. It's going into a like, and Antifa, we're going to treat Antifa the same way. We treat them the same. Well, we're going to treat them the same way as narco terrorists. You mean the ones you just bombed and killed in the middle of the ocean? 3 times now at least. So and Antifa, an organization that doesn't exist because somebody says they're anti-fascist.
Right. That
Well,
means you have a
so
fascist government.
like, so what do you, so what do you expect? What do you expect people to do or think when you're basically threatening the people of America who disagree with you and saying you're implying that you're going to kill them. That's how I
Yeah, I agree.
understood that. And you see here Scott Jennings on the CNN talking about
Just glazing
black
that mushrooms.
black families in Chicago. Let's say if there's somebody in an apartment complex with 30 apartments, and one or two is
We
occupied
warned
by
about this.
a Venezuelan street gang. They have the right to tear up the whole thing. Like, what happened to? I'm sorry, excuse me. Like, what happened to
We
the
allowed it.
Fourth Amendment? Like,
When we allowed Israelis to do this to Palestinians, we allowed this country to do it to ourselves.
yeah, it's so.
When we allow Palestinians to be zip tied, we allow black babies to be zip tied in Chicago
It,
instantaneously. And people warned about this shit. I remember I was there, and people called us crazy. People gaslit us. People said they were trying to get Trump elected. No, people understand that when you give fascism an inch and any sort of legitimacy, people will then come back around and say, well, look, and the thing is, the overt fascists will be like, yeah, they're right what they're saying about that, but listen, they're doing it wrong. Give me all the power. And that's
yeah,
exactly what the fuck happened.
yeah, and my stance on somebody like Kamala, and the reason why I'm kind of going back to that is because of this week, because of Scott Jennings reusing that language, and I look
It was
back and say,
wild.
like, damn,
Yep,
that was a critical mistake, and we've allowed it. We basically
that's
says that
right.
we're going to allow it, and here we are, and they're in Chicago, and they're about to treat Chicago just like they
Right.
did Gaza.
Gaza,
So
right? Zip tying.
and I'm so
And
you know
and if she was so against it, that as she writes in 107 Days, her book, if she was so against all this,
speak out now.
why can't she do it now?
Yeah,
And that really exposes the whole fucking ball game. And I just posted before we got on the air the Barack Obama statement about it. It's like he's right there, right? We got his book here, right there, boom, from his photographer and all. And it's a great picture of it. But then you realize that all of this, that's propaganda, right? That book is propaganda. That's meant to get us to feel something, to emote something towards people. Politicians are not our friends. They are not our friends. And elections are about two things. Because some folks feel like, can I get a beer with him? Do I like the guy? Does he wear a flannel shirt? Can he grow a beard? All the shit that we're saying. I mean, this is the intersection of WWE in real life. That's where we're at right now. Elections are about two things. If we are to ever maintain this, democracy as it relates to electoral voting in a republic, they're about two things: rights and resources. That's it. That's the only thing they're about. So when you got these fucking right wingers talking to their base, their smooth brain base about the trans people in the bathrooms and the Leah Thomas and all this shit, they're not telling them how your rights are going to be infringed upon, taken away, and they're not talking about how the consolidation of resources are going to be hoovered up to the 1%.
well, they don't care anyways.
But also we fall into that. I like Kamala, identity politics, black woman, black man. Joe Biden was
True.
is that we have to understand that, like, this is why now people are pressed on, are you going to take APAC dollars? Are you going? And people are like, well, that doesn't matter about this because Hakeem Jeffries is a black man. No, the reason it matters is because
Yeah.
APAC will put money against progressive candidates like Cory Bush and Jamal Bowman, who are fighting on the fronts of things like healthcare, are fighting on the fronts of things like women's bodily autonomy, voting rights, and they'll put in a hollow suit who will say a Joe Manchin light. So when people are like, "Oh no, I mean, APAC ain't got nothing to do with this," it has everything to do with it, and not just APAC, but big oil, big pharma, you name it. Citizens United was a death blow to anything that would have been close to a multicultural, pluralistic democracy.
Yeah, 100%. I think Citizens United, and we've tried to talk about that in the beginning, but I actually wonder what I
bring it up.
I actually wonder what I said back in back in the day when it happened. Was it like 20? Was it back in like 2015?
I think it's 2011.
2014?
2011, I think.
But yeah, that's wild. Like how
because we want politics to be like super super easy. Like we want this kind of babyfied politics, like, especially the right. The right yearns for babyfied politics. They like bumper slogan, or something, bumper sticker slogan politics, right? If it can fit on a bumper sticker, that's their politics, right? Like, he's she's for they them, he's for you. That's their politics, right? I'm anti woke, go woke, go broke. That is their politics, right? They don't have a politics that's rooted in getting them what I said the elections are about: rights and resources. They don't give a shit about either of them because they're the top of the pops, and they don't got to ever think downwards if those two things were ever taken from me. Now, people like ourselves who understand rights and resources, you went through a litany of those people, whether it be Martin Luther King, whether it be Harriet Tubman, who were not born full citizens. My mother, born in 1962, was not born a full citizen, a full human being under the eyes of this settler colonial project. So we have to understand that these white liberals who are so dedicated to the respectability politics of the modern era, they have to start having the hard conversations with themselves. They have to start trying to find information in a book that isn't given to them from a black person. They have to have the insatiable curiosity of, why do I believe these things? And if they don't get there, we're going to get another No King's Day with a bunch of random signs with a bunch of shit standing on a Saturday with the police saying, come right this way. Because if the police are for you, it ain't disrupting shit. Sorry.
No, it's a good point to read is what I the nugget I took out of there is like read about revolutionaries, because I think one of the things was like, I don't know who I was having this conversation with, maybe it was you, but it's like, I think white Americans never had to be, revolutionaries against in America after
Right.
the revolution, because the country was built for them, and so like
that's right.
But I feel like we're at kind of like a standstill of like, they're kind of waiting for, black folks to lead the effort, kind of like Black Lives Matter, where white folks did go out and join the thing, but like, they don't know what to like. They don't know what to do. It's like, well, should we be showing them, or it's like, or just read a book, like, like, you know what I'm saying? So like, there's this like revolutionary. Like, I feel like there's this revolutionary in my soul, and and I feel like part of that would be willing to, what are you willing to sacrifice? And I think again, like, that first question is like, what are you willing to sacrifice? And the other thing I wanted to say was, do we have to put things in TikTok form? TikTok form? Like,
but we did
I don't
that
know.
too.
It does
Like,
that. And like, it's like, what is
I
it?
think I told you. I went back and looked at my old. For folks who are just listening in, before the election, I did a 100-day countdown, every day posting a video with some sort of political, civic knowledge and engagement. Those, I mean, it got some views. Folks didn't care, and I was the chair of the 8th largest county of the Democratic Party in North Carolina, and I was sharing this and letting folks know. And I went back. I thought I saw around this either last episode or just interpersonally. I went back and looked at him. That boy was right. That boy, everything that boy was saying either came true, whether it was is poignant to what's going on right now, and also had either a lifeline and an escape route of how to get out of the situation. But it's not just me. We've had plenty of ancestors that left blueprints. W.B.E. Du Bois had left the blueprint. The Black Panthers had a 10-point plan. Fannie Lou Hamer, countless, A. Philip Randolph had a plan. SNCC had a plan. They don't want to fucking learn that shit, because if they do, especially white people or people that believe themselves to be white, because if they did, that means they would have to look at themselves and say, what can I have the hard conversation with myself, knowing that I benefit from that system? And I saw there's this trend going around on TikTok, as you brought TikTok as we head out of here. That there's these white people or people that believe themselves to be white, and they're calling themselves, the trend is this: non-practicing whites. And they're like, oh, I learned this statement, and that's so me. I voted for Kamala Harris, and I'm a non-practicing white. And it's like the next person, I'm a non-practicing white. It's like, I'm a non-practicing white. It's all these people saying I'm a non-practicing white. And I thought it was interesting to me, because you get to reject it on the TikTok, but yet you still benefit from the system. So what does that mean to me as a black person that you're a non-practicing white? I need you to take that privilege and destroy that privilege by talking to white people or people that believe themselves to be white, unlearning whiteness, white supremacy that is not real. The race is a social construct constructed by Europeans to then exchange out to become more homogenous as a country, to say we are all one thing as long as we're not that thing, the savage, or that thing, the black. We all get to be white. You're no longer German. You're no longer Austrian. You're no longer British. You're no longer, X, Y, or Z European country. You get to just now be this amalgamation of white, and that's what got us where we are right now. And Trump, Pete Hegseth, Stephen Miller play on that ignorance that you don't have any culture. Your culture is the flag. You asked earlier, why do people do that? Because that's all they got. That's all they've ever been given. We had to create cultures. We had to create societies. We had to create subculture and language and flavor and style. And we are still the heartbeat of this country. I think I said this in the last episode. Black people are so powerful in this country. You ask an average white person, they still think that we're 50% of this country, because that's how impactful we are and how bold we are and how ubiquitous all of our impacts are. So they got to do that. So standing there on October 18th, No King's Day, I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, I know we're trying to wrap up, but I just got, like you said, this propaganda video. I haven't really seen.
Who's this now?
I'm reading the captions and I'm like, oh gosh.
Can we share it? I mean, this the new technology. Can we share it, or is it not?
Yeah, let's.
Okay, what's this? Is it AI?
No.
Okay, it looks like AI. I can't hear anything.
Oh, hold on,
folks. We're still figuring it out. It's that new. I like it though. I like the little logo up here.
Hold on. Let me figure out.
No, there's a study that said the redder your face is, the more you probably look up trans porn. There's a study about that. I did not make that up. I'm seeing this guy's red face. And think about Mary Robert Burns. The redder your face is, the higher likelihood you look at trans porn. I did not make that up. Now I don't know if you know anything about black people, but we don't really get red in the face. So I don't know who.
Let me figure out what's. Let me just.
Which is fine if you look at trans porn. Do your thing, but just don't in your daytime try to persecute those people.
All right, here I'm gonna get this. This is dealing with new technology. I got to share a tab instead of.
Rom, do you even know computers, bro? I mean, are you really tech savvy? I don't think you are. Do you need me to come over there? I think you need me to come over there and fix some shit.
What's going on here?
What's going on here? That's the question. I would know. I'm like, first of all, it's Control Alt Delete. Have you tried that, Rom? Have you tried unplugging it for 10 seconds and plugging it back in? Okay, all right, then shut up. Exactly.
Right, here we go.
Okay,
here we go. Oh, I know what's wrong.
See, do you? Or you guessed it?
I gotta get used to the new technology. That's for sure.
Work with us,
all
folks.
Right.
Work with us.
All right, now you're gonna hear the sound. So let me restart.
It's almost like, do I want to hear it?
You don't.
Antifa beats journalists. Antifa attacks our police stations. They attack our courthouses. They dox our law enforcement officers. No more. They are a terrorist group, and we are coming after them.
We are here at the White House today to unmask Antifa, to follow the money all the way to the top. If you want to get to the bottom of who is fomenting this chaos and violence in our country, you must follow the money.
I was a mainstream reporter in Seattle for 10 years before I quit mainstream media, in part due to its refusal to acknowledge the dangers of Antifa and radical left-wing violence.
Part of the problem that we have is that a lot of people refuse to believe that Antifa is real, is just a made-up thing, but I have seen them. They are real, they are dangerous, and they are violent.
They are an organized, systemic, international criminal enterprise. And what the FBI is going to do is trace the money, follow the funds, and find every single person that was involved in funding the riots and the violent acts of criminality that they're perpetrating on our street.
I've watched Antifa brutally beat, harass, and threaten Americans in the street, but all of that ends with the Trump administration.
I was brutally attacked and almost killed by Antifa in the streets of Seattle. All of my colleagues have been attacked. I can't think of a single one who hasn't. Violence against journalists and police officers in our streets can't stand.
Just days ago, I was in the Portland jailhouse, and now I'm in the White House. This administration is built different, and Antifa's days are numbered.
And I want to thank President Donald Trump for designating Antifa a terrorist organization, and I'm looking forward to the FBI and the DOJ hunting down these people like the terrorists that they are.
All I gotta say, it's a bad day to be Antifa.
And Antifa's days of using violence and intimidation against their political opposition are over.
And I've continued to report on them over the years, despite the threats.
Is there is there like a pot of gold at the end of this video? Because if not,
I don't know. That's the first time I've seen it.
You know how
see they put together a 3-minute propaganda video about an imaginary enemy. So this is the weapons of mass
Jack
destruction.
Pazogbe's in it. Look at him, a Pizzagate fame.
This is the weapons of mass destruction. This is the
but dumber.
Yeah. So when they start killing people, I'm not going to be
like the guy that killed Charlie Kirk with
Antifa. I think they'll probably label indivisible Antifa. They'll probably label every any left organization Antifa, and
I love it. I mean, I think it's even better on mute. Play it again on mute, just so we'll keep talking about it. Like first of all, let's analyze this for a second before we head out of here. I love how Pam Bondi has this disheveled, like full chest sternum situation going on here, where she's looking very like an alien's about to bust out of her chest, but not through the cross. The cross is sizzling. This guy here is a human pepperoni. I thoroughly believe he's 80% pepperoni, and
it looks like an incest baby.
And the son hates him. But what I think you ever go to one of those weddings where like someone has the camera and they're like, okay, say something about the bride and groom, but why are you here? That's what this is, but for a bunch of unfuckable losers. It's a bunch of people being like, Antifa, what you want me to say? Antifa is great, and I hope y'all have a great day. Or Antifa is terrible, and have a great day.
That was interesting. There's no black people in this video.
They don't want no Negroes up in there.
They need no tokens. They didn't need a couple tokens.
You got Cash App. Cash App right here. That's enough. Cash App says, listen, both my eyes are independent. Okay. So I'm not for the left or the right. Both my eyes are doing their own thing. You got, this lady here, Savannah Hernandez. I mean, but he was on the Jubilee. What are you going to say?
Who is it saying Curtis? Here, Curtis Yarvin is trying to get out of Dodge.
I sent you the video about this guy right now. This guy right here.
Yeah,
this motherfucker right here. Yo, this dude was at January 6th. This dude.
Oh, sorry.
This dude was at January 6th. He absolutely does not have. He does absolutely not have a girlfriend. He is 22. Because when you hate, that hate will aid you.
Like Stephen Miller.
Exactly. Like these motherfuckers.
Stephen Miller's younger than us, isn't he?
No, he's not. But he's not that much older either, right? But again, look at him, right? Again, why does a small man love his flag? Because it's all he got. And these are small people who are fed lies about their greatness, about how this country was for them. And all you have to do is hold on to that raggedy ass fucking flag, dress like a flag, the colors of your face with your blue eyes, your white sclera part of your eye, and your red fucking skin makes up the red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
This is who they are.
Stephen Miller's 1 year older than you. He's 1 year older than us.
Now he's 41.
He's 40. He was born in 85, August 23rd, 1985. That little fucking.
I thought it was 41.
That little fucking gremlin.
At least my wife ain't fucking Elon Musk. But I don't know if she's really fucking Elon Musk either, because I heard his dick don't get up. But these are again. But I would say these are a bunch of unfuckable losers, and what they're holding on to is that the last thing, the only thing they got is institutional power. This is why they're so mad at the Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl. This is why they're mad at the Bad Bunny Super Bowl. This is why they're mad at Black Mermaids. This is why they're mad at Nicole Hannah-Jones being successful. They have no cultural influence. And a part of Project 1981, which was the predecessor for Project 2025, was to try to instill cultural control through the governmental institutions, but it does not work. The United States is larger than Germany at the height of Nazism. They cannot do this. It requires us to believe that they're stronger and bigger and more powerful than they are, that they are inevitable, and they are not inevitable. Look at this fucking guy. This guy looks like he drinks hot dog water. Okay.
Yeah.
These are the people that we should not be afraid of. These are the people that we should be clowning to their fucking face, like the red-faced, testicle-faced Robert Burns ass mayor who has some sort of, probably trad wife situation with his wife. Fuck these people. These people are losers, all of them, and they're voters.
Yeah, it really is like the D team of, they would be Hitler's D team.
I mean, they would love to be Hitler's D team.
Yeah, they would.
Because that's why Grindr be crashing at the RNC, because they want to be on the D team.
Well, they even say now they even the D. they even say that
right now.
Yeah, I did. They even say that, like, damn, were they fighting for the wrong side? Like, these people aren't putting any, like, they're not keeping it secret of where they stand on things.
A bunch of fucking racist losers. I would hate to be so caught up in like maintaining hatred and dominance. And I think, just to go back as we head out of here, like, I love the meme that went around after the Super Bowl announcement about Bad Bunny. There's a picture of Beyonce kind of leaning over, going like, huh? It's like, can you tell almost unanimously Black people responded to Bad Bunny saying, like, I hope you don't speak a lick of English, because Black people, we don't got to be centered. These are people that need to be centered. They want to know what the fuck you talking about, because it's in a colonial mindset. They are always concerned about what the fuck the Latinos got going on, what the Blacks got going on, what the women got going on, what the queers got going on. And if they don't know, then they need to know. And if they do know, they need to control it. And this is the shit. This is why all y'all got is government. And I know that sounds crazy. You're like, Payron, it controls so much. Yes, but I embrace this shit. And we should all embrace it. Like, all y'all fucking little bitches got is a little fucking badge. You ain't got no love in your heart. You ain't got no vision for a future. You have nothing but weakness. That's all y'all got.
So I got another piece of, I don't know. I know we got to get out of here, but damn.
I know. I thought we were going to be done in an hour, but all right. This is the last thing though, folks. What we got?
Former GOP election official buys Dominion voting systems and says he'll push for paper ballots.
That's all they got.
Dominion voting system, the election vendor that was falsely accused of rigging the 2020 election, is being sold and rebranded as Liberty Vote, effective immediately.
Okay. Wow. I mean,
so hey, if you guys want to think that we're going to have a 2026 free and fair
believe
election,
it or not,
and we can, that's fine, but like,
that's irrelevant. If we're going to have a 2026, it's if you are willing to do the cultural work right now. Because the elections are going to come and go, but we as human beings will exist. We will probably exist past the existence of this country. This is why Gil Scott-Heron said the revolution will not be televised, because the first revolution starts in your mind. Start thinking. Fuck. I mean, okay. Just think right now. If this entire governmental system collapsed tonight, as Ruth Ben-Ghiat, the writer of Strongmen, says, what happens with coups and the falling of governments is, in the morning people go to work, and by the time they come home at night, a coup has taken place or the government has fallen. But if you're not thinking that will ever happen because of American exceptionalism, you're never thinking, is this shit right? What do I got to do to change it? What is my role in that new society? Am I putting out into the world the things that I know will make the lives better for so many other people? And if people aren't doing that, they got you where they want you, even right now in your resistance standpoint. Because what are you resisting? What are you resisting? Yeah. Let them have this shit. This shit's dying, my friend. This is a dying empire. When an empire has to get the most violent, look at Israel. When an empire has to get the most violent, it's over. It's over, man. Do we have it happen in Chicago, LA, Maryland, DC? They ain't got no ideas, man. They want to be something of importance, but they're not. They're small, insecure. Look at Pete Hegseth strutting like a fucking peacock on that stage in front of all those. And again, I have my problems with the military-industrial complex, but these were serious people. These are serious people, and he's up there strutting and trying to feel like he must have just watched Patton. That movie where there's that giant American flag, and he's getting folks ready. Folks, you're a weekend morning show host. He didn't even host it Monday through Friday. They only trusted you to do it Saturday and Sunday. And I'm surprised he did that because he was drinking on Friday. So this is who these people are, folks. Laugh at them, mock them. And yes, like I said in my post about Charlie Kirk, whenever they pass, I don't care how brutal it is, they must know that we will not shed a tear and we will dance in their graves. We will say, like, you know what? Fuck those people. Because I said fuck you in life. I will absolutely say fuck you in death. It doesn't mean I want you to die. It just means that whenever you do die, a motherfucker ain't gonna care. Negroes ain't gonna care. So that's my patriotic duty. Is to not care about these racist white people and these racist white supremacist systems. That's my sign off. And I want everybody to think, what is your modern version of patriotism? And are you working towards that now? Is it radical change? Is it radical thought? Is it liberatory works? So what is your new patriotic outlook for our guests or our viewers as we head out?
Yeah. Good stuff. I got 10 more starting. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, we'll be here till 4 a.m, folks. Yeah, but what you got? What do you got for people to be okay? You're their new version of patriotism after this conversation. What you got, Ron?
I have nothing right now. I think actually, I think it's just start figuring out how to build and contribute.
If it all collapsed today, what are you worth? Not money, because money ain't gonna exist. What are you worth? What can you do? Who do you care about? Right? If this whole thing collapses, what you could. It's happened multiple times.
How can you be a resource outside of monetary resources?
That's right. Without these degrees that we all got, these LinkedIn badges, if all that shit goes away, and it's just you caring about people, caring about your family, yourself, what do you have to offer? You can't eat bullets. So I got guns. Okay, I hear that. Can't eat those, my friend. What can you offer yourself, your community? That's how you build a new nation. What do you want to exist and work towards that?
Yeah, I think I've been in that mindset for months now. Like, I've already accepted the fact that, like, hey, the dollar might not be worth shit. I might not have a dollar to my name.
It's falling for damn sure.
The housing bubble. Who knows what's going to happen?
The AI bubble.
They deport my ass. So
like all of us goes in a gulag.
So yeah, I've already. And to that point, like we've been, and that's why I said we've been warning about a lot of these things since December, and very clearly since January and February.
That's right.
And, you can go back and look at it. You can look at the names of even just the titles of our episodes. And so again, that's why I'm saying, like, I think we're headed. I think Sunday we're going to start season 2. I was like, where do we start season 2? Is it episode 50? Is it episode 100? No, I feel like now's it feels a little more imperative that we start truly, like,
because
building.
We're patriots.
Yeah, in you can be a patriot. It doesn't have to be to the America as we know it, but you could be a patriot to the people of your community, the people, and to humanity.
That's right. I'm a patriot for humanity.
That's a good one.
Well, folks, thank you so much. Again, we're trying new stuff, and and I like this. I like having a topic and just kind of doubling in and using news of the day. If you guys have any ideas, any topics, and maybe we could do on a longer episode, like on Thursdays, just do a topic and then
what do you think of the new format? The new
I love it. I love the scrolling Chiron here. I love this.
Yeah,
I think it's clear.
The only problem I have is
I feel an inch taller.
Yeah, the only problem I have is the virtual background looks terrible. It's like I even got a green screen to see.
I see you have a green screen because it's coming through your headphones.
It looks somewhat better, but it didn't like fix it. I put it together before this episode. I'm gonna promise sending it back. I just got to get like a better background or something because it ain't worth
great,
it.
Man. You look great, folks. Thank you all so much for listening. We do this because of you. So anything you guys can do to please like, share, and subscribe. Please make sure you let your friends know what we're talking about. If you have any ideas, again, we're trying to I haven't really talked to Ron about this, but I would love to do this sort of a format on Thursdays where we just take a topic and just kind of go. And then if you guys are in the chat, thank you so much for Jarnek Busby putting in comments, Edub, Susan Guidman, and of course Rose. for putting in some fantastic comments in our chat.
Where did you see that?
See, exactly. You don't know what you're talking about. See, you got figured out, brother.
Oh, you can see the chat from here. Oh, and you can see it from Facebook. You can see it from.
Look at him. He'll know what the hell he's doing. All right, y'all, folks. I am Payron. I'm your co-host, Payron Baxter. Oh, it comes up on screen. Nice.
Look at
you.
There we go. Fighting for a toy steering wheel is a solid gold, and I'm gonna plagiarize the shit out of it. Great.
Hey, I love it.
That's pretty good. Okay, cool. Well, thank you to our listeners.
Thank you.
This was great.
We all moving on up.
Yeah.
To the pod side. All right, y'all. Y'all be good, and we will see you on